morning, Hugh. Thanks again for having me. It's always such a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I saw you were down in the southern part of the state over the weekend talking about other things. I want to start with, how do you actually get registered to vote as a Republican in the convention on May 8th, and where do you register to vote?
Well, Hugh, first of all, this convention on May the 8th is a distributed convention, meaning everyone's going to vote in different spots across this great Commonwealth. To register, you can come to our website at youngkinforgovernor.com. Now, reality is some of the county due dates have passed. We still have about half of the counties and municipalities in Virginia that are still accepting applications to vote, but about half have passed. And so I would encourage everybody who's listening to please come to our website at youngkinforgovernor.com. Let us help you get registered so that you can participate. Hugh, what we've seen across this Commonwealth, and I've traveled nearly 14,000 miles in a little over 2 months. And I've heard from Virginian after Virginian after Virginian, we want to participate in this Republican convention. Glenn, we're for you. In the first 34 counties, we actually represented slightly more than half of the delegate filings. The other 6 candidates represented the other half. So we're doing great with super support from across the Commonwealth. So I just want as many people as possible to participate in this convention because, Hugh, we know the Republican Party is going to win through addition and multiplication, not through subtraction and division.
Now, Youngkin for governor. It's young as in I'm a young guy, and kin is kith and kin. Youngkin, FORgovernor.com, and it says become a delegate. You hit that button, and if you're allowed to register, you'll be able to register. Then what do you have to do on May 8th? I'm calling you governor already, Glenn Youngkin.
Well, I appreciate it, Hugh, because that's where we're going. We're going to win on May 8th, and we're going to win again in November. We're going to beat Terry McAuliffe, whoever else the Democrats throw at us. But on May 8th, then you'll have a drive-through moment where you'll pull up to the polling booth. You'll actually drop off your ballot. It's a rank-ordered choice ballot. Candidate 1, Candidate 2, Candidate 3, Candidate 4, Candidate 5. For governor, for lieutenant governor, and for attorney general, that's all you're voting on. And I'd ask everybody to put me down as your first choice, please. Please put me down as your first choice, and we'll go win this thing on May 8th and move forward and go win in November.
Now, I personally am only going to, in the old days, we used to call it throwing a bullet when there was a ranked choice. I'm just going to put you on there, Glenn Youngkin, because I don't want to inadvertently cast a vote for somebody else who comes in and beats you because they get a second-place vote. I don't know how it works. It's a crazy system. Is it strategically better just to vote for Glenn Youngkin, or is it better to vote for 5 people?
I'm going to let people choose how they want to vote. If somebody wants to put me down as their only choice, I'll absolutely be happy about that. And if folks want a rank order choice, that's fine. The key is to put me down as your top choice, and I would just be deeply humbled if everyone would do that. And Hugh, I'm so grateful for you doing that.
Well, I'm going to do that now. Do they send me my ballot, or do I have to pick it up at one of those 38 locations?
There will be a ballot that will be made available for you when you get there, and each jurisdiction may send it ahead of time to you as well, but you'll have to show up with a photo ID, Hugh.
Okay,
You'll need to show up with a photo ID.
I'm ready. I like photo ID. I think that's a good thing. Now let's talk a little bit about the issues, Glenn Youngkin. I told people there are only 2 issues for me: roads, which have not been improved since the Civil War, and taxes, which are going up under the Democrats. Talk to me about both of those.
Let's start with taxes, because that's going to impact the way that the Biden administration is thinking about roads. So first, in Virginia particularly, Virginia unfortunately is not competitive anymore. Our taxes have gone up, and our peer states, our taxes, particularly in Tennessee and North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Texas, are all the states we compete against for jobs and for companies and for families. And what we've seen is families moving away to these states from Virginia in order to find a lower cost of living and better job opportunities. We have to get our taxes down. As your governor, I'm going to work like crazy to get them down. I've got a great senior economic advisor, Stephen Moore, is working with us in order to figure out how to get our taxes down, and we're targeting getting them to 0 because we need to in order to compete. And then I think the second big topic for us is of course what's happening in transportation and infrastructure. And here we have the Biden administration coming forth with their infrastructure bill. And there is so little infrastructure in their infrastructure bill, just like there was so little COVID in their COVID spending bill. And here we have government again trying to move forward with big spending. And by definition, what comes behind it is increased taxes. And so we do need to spend money on infrastructure. We absolutely do need to. Virginia has got a low grade in infrastructure, and our country has a terrible grade in infrastructure. And actual spending makes some sense if it's done with some fiscal discipline. But to have a $2.3 trillion spending bill on the back of a $1.9 trillion COVID spending bill is actually irresponsible fiscally, and we can target what we want to get done. I love the fact that a number of Republican senators are in fact saying that we could repurpose some of the misallocated money in the $1.9 trillion COVID spending bill towards infrastructure and cover it all. So this is a spot where, as governor, I'm going to focus on making sure that we're investing appropriately in our infrastructure, because we must. But it can be a combination, yes, of some government support coming from these bills, but public-private partnerships will prove to be an amazing opportunity for us on infrastructure spending. And one of the first ones we have to drive to is, in fact, rural broadband. In Virginia, it is a giant challenge. And as governor, this is going to be at the top of my list on our infrastructure agenda, is to make sure that all of Virginia, particularly our rural areas, have access to high-speed internet. The challenge, of course, today is the career politicians are looking at 20-year-old solutions about burying cable and digging trenches over hills and under streams. It's like we're going to grandmother's house again. But at the end of the day, we got to look up, because we have new technology. We have low orbit satellites that, in fact, other states are using effectively, like North Carolina. And here we are in Virginia yet again, not competing, not staying with the times. And so we are going to press forward with infrastructure investment. And at the top of the list is going to be rural access to high-speed internet.
You know, Governor, keep doing that. Glenn Youngkin is my guest. He's going to be the next governor of Virginia. And in a moment, I may play the Terry McAuliffe. Terry used to come on the show until he found out I wouldn't support him for governor. In fact, here's what he used to say, Glenn Youngkin.
I'm Terry McAuliffe, and you should listen to the Hugh Hewitt Show every single day, the greatest radio show in the United States of America.
So there you have the great Terry McAuliffe endorsing me, and I'm endorsing Glenn Youngkin, Virginians. Now, Glenn Youngkin, here's an anecdotal story, and we know that anecdotal evidence is evidence of anecdotes and nothing else. But I came back late because I had to get vaccinated in Virginia, and I spent January in California. I had to get vaccinated in California, And in the interim, Orange County Airport opened a direct flight to Nashville. And that's, it just sort of astonished me. So many Californians are going to Nashville, the entertainment capital down there, and they have zero income tax. And my friend, the Butler graduate who managed to figure out the best place to live is where the taxes are lowest, he's moving to Tennessee. Everybody's going to Tennessee because it's zero income tax, like Florida, and it's not. And I think Virginia is at 5.5 and going up. It's not California 13.5, but I mean, that's going to impact who comes here.
It is. And by the way, Virginia's 5 3/4 at the top bracket today. It escalates. But this gets back to my comment about our senior economic advisor, Stephen Moore. So I asked Stephen, where do you live? He says, I live in Maryland. I said, you live in Maryland? Why don't you live in Virginia? And he says, the aggregate taxes in Virginia are higher than they are in Maryland.
Wow.
I mean, this is the challenge that we've got. Virginia has stacked taxes on top of taxes, real estate taxes, sales taxes, income taxes, car taxes. And when you layer all this stuff up together, Hugh, we actually are no longer even competitive. The fastest growing states in America, the fastest growing cities in America are low or no income tax jurisdictions. We have to compete. And oh, by the way, where are Virginia families moving to? And by the way, we have been a net exporter of families the last few years. More families moving away than moving here, and they're going to Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Texas. They're going for job opportunities, and they're going for a lower cost of living. This is so frustrating to me because Virginia should be the best state in America to live and work and raise a family. And if we don't get moving on our overall tax burden on companies and our tax burden particularly on families, we are going to shrink our way to nothingness. And we all know you cannot shrink your way to prosperity. And we're going to get moving the other direction. When I'm governor, we're going to get our taxes down. We're going to compete like crazy because I want families to stay here. I want our kids, when they graduate from community college or trade school or from our four-year universities, to stay here. I actually want businesses to come back here. Our governor has shut businesses. We've had 25% of Virginia's businesses over the last 12 months either fully closed or temporarily closed. And this is just not right, Hugh. So we can get this moving, but we have to compete. And personal income tax rates is right at the top of the list. And that's what Stephen Moore has been so great in helping us with. I had 30 years of business experience. I know one thing. I know how to get stuff done. And one of the things we're going to get done is we're going to get our taxes down so we can go compete with the likes of Tennessee and North Carolina and Florida and Texas for our families.
We're going to repeat this message every Monday until May 8th, and then on May 8th, I'm going to remind people. But in the meantime, you've got to be registered to vote. There are a few places in the GOP primary. It's a convoluted system. Go to Youngkin4governor.com, and they'll help you become a delegate like I did and the Fetching Mrs. Hewitt did, because we actually want to stay in Virginia. We don't want to get driven out. A lot of my friends are going to Florida and Tennessee. I don't want to do that. I already am a tax refugee from California, and I do not want Virginia to go that way, and it's looking that. Glenn Youngkin, thank you for joining me today. I'll talk to you next Monday. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
You too.